Well, good morning, my friends on Facebook. It's great to be here again. It's another beautiful Tuesday morning where I am. I hope that it's pretty where you are too. This morning, as I posted, I will be talking about, well, and again, this is coaching and coffee or beverage of choice. I've got a little green tea spritzer going this morning. I'm such a dork. I'll post the recipe for this afterwards. I'm a connoisseur of beverages that are a little bit less traditional, and I've been asked about them before. I thought that might be a fun way to integrate some healthy recipes into your own life and to get to share those with you. So anyways, coffee and coaching this morning, and my phone is on, and there we go. We're talking about overthinking today. Hello to Corey and Ian and Katie. I'm happy you guys are here. Please feel free to comment and ask questions along the way. Last time it was a whole bunch of me talking like 30 minutes straight, which is fine. But I would love it to be more of a conversation if possible. So anyways, we're talking about overthinking and how it can get in the way of living your life. How it can, hello Matt, nice to see your name and kind of your face. How it can get in the way of living a more fulfilling and fully expressed life. And so I've kind of always been this way, but I hate planning for things, particularly in the practice that I have. I never come what most people would call like prepared to a call. I show up, and even when I speak, I don't like to have an outline of what I'm going to speak about. I don't like to know in advance what I'm going to prepare or present. And so traditionally speaking in society, that would call me unprepared. Like that would say that there's a negative, there's a negative connotation about that. And it took me a long time to really honor that about myself. And I stumbled across something a while back in my practice, or in what I do, and I learned a little bit about why thinking, as my coach calls it, is my handicap. So I want to, that's what we're going to talk about today. And I learned this through my own experience in doing what I do. And first of all, a handicap is something that gets in the way of creating success or progress. So if thinking is my handicap, it actually gets in the way of my success and my progress. And if I get in my own way with my success or my progress, then I impede my client's success and their progress. So I have actually, hello, Tara. Hello, Kathy. So great to see you guys. Thanks for being here. I've really had to be mindful about my own tendency to overthink. I don't know if any of you out there are overthinkers, but classic overthinker. I can beat any problem to death in my mind like over and over and over again daily. Every single minute of every single day, I can just ruminate on a problem until I drive myself crazy, and then I'm snapping at my husband, and God forbid my 6-year-old stepson does anything wrong, because then I'm on, at the end of my rope already, because it's all up here and I'm like a crazy person. So I really had to learn how to be mindful about my thinking and my thought patterns, and how do I dismantle those, and why do I dismantle those? What's the point in the first place? So that, I can actually live my life. So I guess that's the point. But I want to talk about first what happens when we overthink. So I used to work for a corporate wellness company, and this is where I really learned this about myself. I would be fantastic in my trainings with my coaches. I didn't manage a team, I'm sorry, but I would coach the team and mentor the new coaches that came in. And I would notice that I'd be great live with them, and I could be really fluid with them on the spot. There was no shortage of content. There was no lack of ability, competence, confidence, anything like that. But the second I had to create a program, the second I had to put it in a linear sequencing, and the second I had to put it into maybe a box, so to speak, or like in a package that kind of fits the mold into society, I would shut down, and my brain would literally just stop. All of the content would be gone. I kid you not, it was like a blank space up there. You would think I knew nothing about what I did. It was almost comical. It actually became a bit of a joke in the office. And when I went out on my own and I had my coach, we identified this again, as I was saying earlier, just to bring you guys in the loop, that my thinking is my handicap. So I want to share with you how thinking gets in the way of my ability to be a coach and serve my clients. And hopefully something in this will resonate for you. Maybe something you can put in your pocket, use today, tomorrow in your own life and what you do. So basically, thinking, if you think about it, right, thinking can get in the way of creativity and possibility. So anytime your thinking is based off of things that you already know. So things that you've learned in the past, perhaps education, things that you've seen. So maybe like you're out in the world and you see something that's cool. If you're an artist and you want to recreate that or something like that. And so thinking is primarily past-based rumination or it's future-based anxieties. And so if we're thinking about the past, it can be dwelling on what went wrong. It can be reflecting on what went well, but, or something that we've seen in the past. Regardless, it's something that it already exists. It's something that has been, and we can draw up that memory of it, become present to it, and then use that information in this moment. And so if we draw on the past to create something new moving forward, we're actually really limited by what we can create because it's only coming from this little square box. And so our thinking can actually limit creativity, and it can actually make us smaller and less expansive. And as I noticed when I'm sitting here talking to you guys, these little ideas are flowing in my mind. I actually did come prepared. This is me coming prepared. And I'm totally split. I'm not totally present with you guys just talking about what I'm talking about because I'm trying to follow my outline, which sucks because, quite frankly, I'm much better when I don't. So I went against my better instincts, and I'm talking about stalling action, and right now I'm feeling stalled because I'm split. So I'm thinking about what did I write past, and I'm trying to be present with you guys, but I'm not sure. Like in my mind, I'm like, am I on track? Am I doing the right thing? And you might find this even in your own life, right? If you are fully present with somebody and you're just in that moment, even in a workout, for example, more like common, things that you're up to in life, if you're not, coaching, speaking, whatever, but just being present with somebody. If your mind is split, if you're thinking about something else you have to be doing, or perhaps you might be judging, God forbid, the person that you're talking to, you're actually not present to what's happening in that moment, and you miss out on a lot of information. Or if you're thinking about something else in your workout, you're actually not giving all of your energy into what it is that you're doing. And so you're actually become less effective at what you're up to. And that's just a division of energy if you think about it, right? So if you're fully present to something, you can actually soak up more information. You're not divided into two places at once. You're not multitasking. And regardless of what people think, oftentimes people think that multitasking is more efficient, but in fact it's not. And studies have been shown to back up, or there's research to back this up. But anyways, so if you can be fully present, and it can be in little exchanges, it can be, in the little things through life. If you can be fully present, then your mind is in alignment with what's happening in front of you, and you'll actually be more effective. Now, this can go for work. This can go for, a call. It can go for just being with your family. If you're playing with your dog, for example, if you have dogs, there's a big difference between playing with your dog, where your thoughts and your actions are in alignment, and it becomes a different experience with your animal. What about your kids, right? If you are totally present and your thoughts are in alignment with your action, again, playing with your kids, totally different experience. It's way more fulfilling. If I try to multitask and I'm like cooking and I'm reading with my stepson, it's never the same experience because I'm in two places at once, or I'm thinking about, did I leave the burner on, or when's the timer going to go off, or whatever else it is. And then Nolan, my stepson, our experience together suffers. And if I'm really super present, he can feel that and he can sense that. Hi, Krista. Hi, Casey. Good to see you guys. Good morning, Erin. So all this to say that if you can let go of thinking, it can make you more present to the moment. You can be more effective in what you're doing, and then you can live a more fully expressed life in that moment. Another way that thinking can impede the way that you might want to live your life is through a creative expression. So some of you know that, some of you don't, I don't know. But I didn't choose this hairstyle. It kind of chose me. I got brain cancer in 2014. And it actually provided, a couple of gifts, a couple of good things in retrospect. One of them being this haircut. I don't know if any of you women have ever had really short hair, but it's the best thing ever. It's obviously very low maintenance. You can tell I've done nothing with mine this morning. But I was actually, after brain surgery and after going through treatment, I was unable to really divide my attention. I have a very short amount of energy, or I don't know how else to put it, but it's almost like my ability to think of or do multiple things at once has actually been decreased. So if I try to do this and something distracts me, you guys will know in a heartbeat. I can't fake it. I can't pretend to do one thing and do another, so it's actually a gift because I'm more in alignment and I'm forced to be really present to what I'm doing because my faculties post-surgery were diminished. One of the other things, and another way that it served me, is that, and I just got distracted because Darren's here. Hi, Darren. Sorry, I got really excited to see that. One of the other gifts that getting brain cancer gave me was, and see, now I can't remember because I got distracted. The haircut, obviously. Diminished ability to stay focused if I get distracted. And we're talking about, okay, great. I got a story out of it. So I have a story to tell through getting brain cancer and, that I want to help people with because I learned a few things along the way. And I was writing this story and I was doing an amazing job with it just flowing out of me. Like there's no attachment to what was showing up. And there was no rules, no regulations, no way it had to be. It was on, Drive and Google, an open blank document. I would just write, and there was no ideas or thoughts about how I should write or what I should write or anything like that. I'd open up the document and whatever came through me was what came out. And it was fantastic. And I loved it. And it was like this beautiful space and time in my life when it was super cathartic. I'd be crying in coffee shops by myself. It was probably a little disturbing for some people, but it allowed me to move through the experience that I was trying to just get through, in 2014. And I didn't realize the impact of some of those moments. And so getting to relive through that process and writing my story was a really wonderful and empowering thing for a little while. Now, what happened is somebody mentioned that I should write a book. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, maybe I'm writing my book. Maybe that's what this is. So I started to think about, here's where the thinking gets in the way, think about writing my book. Now it's less about just creating something through the expression of what's coming through me and not thinking. And now the second I start thinking, I'm judging what I'm doing. I'm wondering what the outcome is going to be. Will I actually sell it? Will I, publish it? Will I ever finish it? Let's start with that, right? Will I ever even write again? Because this thing has stopped. And this is where thinking stalls action. Okay. And so I start to take in all these ideas about what it means to write a book, one that's even readable, not let alone being a good book. And it completely and totally stalled action. So I stopped writing because I was like, okay, do I need to have it in a linear sequence, which we already know doesn't work for me. And then I was thinking about, okay, well, what about the tensing? And then I was swearing in it a whole bunch. And I started to think about, okay, well, if I'm swearing like a sailor in this, who's actually going to read it? And can you publish that? I don't know. And so, all this thinking came into play and I totally lost my ability to be creative. Because what was in the way was all of my judgments and ideas of how things should be. And so if you're an artist, you might be able to relate to this. If you start to overthink, you can't be creative. It starts to get in the way of any creative expression. If you're, building something for yourself or, and I see this all the time. In fact, my husband decided that he was going to learn how to make jeans just randomly. And he decided that he was going to dismantle an old pair of jeans and he was going to create them. And he didn't know how he was going to do it. but he just decided he was going to do it. And then he started thinking too much. He made a lot of progress, and then he saw what he was doing, and he's like, will I ever sell this? Will it ever be good? Will it ever be wearable? And then he kind of stopped. He revisited it, and he finally finished his last pair, but it's been a practice and a meditation of letting go of thinking, because thinking stalls action. It diminishes creativity. The other way that it stalls action is by overthinking, right? And some of you classic overthinkers out there probably know what this is about. If you wake up in the morning and you put on your shoes and you just go to the gym, it feels so good, right? But it kind of has to be like get up and go. Otherwise, if you start to think about it, what happens? I know you guys know this. It's very possible and even more likely that you won't actually go, because you start to think about maybe the pain of getting there, or the hassle of getting there, or what you'll have to do, or I don't know what to do once I get there. So instead of just putting on your shoes and getting to the gym and going and seeing what shows up, possibility, right? Then you start to question whether or not you're going to go, and now you don't go, and then it's, the options typically out the door, once it's been overthought and it's been like, gets created into being this big thing. So the goal is to diminish the time between having an idea and action. If you can diminish that, and I actually read it was funny, it was very validating. I listened to a podcast about this, but this guy was saying that he knows somebody, he interviewed somebody who had diminished the time between a thought or an idea and action from down to like nothing. So most people, they have an idea and then action follows, how much longer later, right? Tara, thank you. You've been there, right? We've all been there. It's like, I have this great idea. I want to do this thing. And then we don't do it, right? And so if we can diminish the time between an idea and action, we can actually create a much more fully expressed life. And this could be anything from like expressing the way that you feel about somebody, or just being transparent in that moment of what's like that thought or idea is, and then actually following through in it. Or it could be something like, like a business idea. It could be something like, I know I want to pick up this book. So many people recommended it, but then we don't do it, and then we don't read it. Maybe we even get the book and it sits on the bedside table forever, and maybe it still is and it's dusty or whatever else. But the time between having an idea and action, if we can practice diminishing that time, and most people, like me, I'm like a 6-month kind of girl right now. Usually, if I have it, and it depends on the idea. But if it's big and, it takes me about 6 months of thinking about it, and I should be doing it, and I should be doing it, and I should be doing it. And that's like 6 months of torture. And so if you're in a bad relationship, if you're living somewhere you don't want to be, or if you're in a career that you don't like, or if you have, anything in your life that you are ruminating on and it isn't serving you. And I know some of you are out there who can relate to that. We've all been there before. But if you're in that and you're thinking about it and you know better, if you can diminish that time of the knowing to action, you will significantly cut down on the amount of abuse that you put yourself through, like that torture of constantly thinking about something over and over again, and of constantly ruminating on something, so that you get to the point where, you drive yourself crazy, essentially. You reach a place of overwhelm, and then that's what fills in the gaps. So another way that thinking can become a handicap is that if you attach to something, now it's what fills in the gaps. It's kind of like your go-to thing. And a great example of this is, I hate to do it, but in my own life, my husband, with creating his denim company, and learning how to make raw denim, he is obsessed with it. And it's a positive obsession, and I admire him for it. I think it's so cool, because he went from having an idea to creating action, and it took him very little time. He had this idea that he wanted to create raw denim, and then Amazon had stuff at our front doorstep the next day. I was like, what the heck is this? It's like a bolt of, 50 pounds of like denim. I'm like, what are you doing? So, but his distance between that first idea and creating action was no time whatsoever. And so there's not a lot of thinking there. But now, we've been going through this process all summer, every time he has some free space and time, he is thinking about creating this venture, creating this den. How can he make it better? How can he be more creative? How can it be a more fully expressed version or extension of who he is? And so this is his default. This is what he goes back to. There are others like me, total, transparency here. When I think of something, or when I tend to ruminate on things that are wrong. I tend to ruminate on problems, and I tend to go back to those things and beat them to death. And so that's what fills my space, my extra space and time. So my driving space starts to be about like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What am I not doing? What should I be doing? And so when you fill that space or those voids with negativity or problems or ruminating on what's wrong, imagine how much fun I must be when I'm driving from Kirkland to Tacoma in traffic and I'm ruminating on problems for like an hour, and then I show up at the front doorstep and like the dogs bombard me and I'm not really interested in, connecting at that point in time because I'm unhappy because I've just spent an hour ruminating on things that I really can't do anything about while I'm stuck in my car for an hour. So I think I can't remember if it was a Dalai Lama or maybe it was another monk or Tibetan leader. I can't remember, but he said, if you can't do anything about it within the next 90 seconds, let it go. So if you could take action within the next 90 seconds, do it. So free yourself from that pain or learn to let it go. And so this has been a practice of mine and something that I'd like to offer you guys, because there's no point in ruminating on something and thinking about something and beating it to death until you drive yourself crazy. And so this is how, I love that, Matt. Thank you for sharing. That's so awesome. I love that. So Matt just offered the idea of failure, right? Like if you act without thinking, like you could fall on your face and it could go terrible, but then you learn something from that. My last live video, I was terrified in full transparency. It's so weird, right? It's like you guys are out there in this virtual world. I don't even really know that you're out there. I'm just talking, and I'm unfortunately looking at myself so I can see like all the bubbles and saliva from half of my face not working as well as it used to. That doesn't make sense to a lot of you. Anyways, doesn't matter. But the whole point of all this is that, yes, if you don't think and you just do, then you have more information. If you don't think and you take action, that's the best way to learn something about yourself. If you don't think and you take action, you might succeed, and then you just can follow down that train and continue on with what feels right and good in that sense of the way. So there's so much more information to be gained when you actually do. If you stay stuck in rumination, and if you stay stuck with just by like staying stalled with your thinking, you'll never learn anything new about yourself, and it's much harder to contribute. So what's all this? So we've really talked a lot about how thinking can diminish the quality of life or become your handicap or keep you stuck or diminish creativity. Well, if you stop thinking, or if you practice being aware of your thinking, you can actually create space, right? So there's all these ways that it gets in the way, but what is it if you are able to expand thinking, if you're able to let go of overthinking, or if you're able to step into action quicker, what does that actually give you? Like, what are the benefits? What's the point? And how do I do it? So what it creates, we've talked a little bit about. There's opportunity for more connection. If I'm not criticizing my husband for leaving the chili in the sink, then I can connect with him and be open and notice that he did the whole yard. Like everything's lawned. Everything's lawned. Everything is mowed. The lawn is mowed. The weeds are picked. Like I can start to see everything that he has done rather than focusing on what he hasn't done. And those are the behavior patterns that I pick up on because of my own conditioning. And so if we are victims of our own patterns and conditioning, it's really hard to see a person as innocent and for who they are and their strengths. And so there's opportunity to see the good. If we can let go of rumination on what's negative, there's opportunity to connect with people. There's opportunity to be fully present with our children, our family, our animals, and to really soak up those good feelings that connection can bring us. There is opportunity for creation. So if, Thomas Edison I know he's an inventor and he was like always creating things like that, but one of the things that allowed him to be, I'm totally assuming, by the way, guys, this is not a fact. I just realized that. But in order for anybody to think of something that doesn't exist, they have to allow in open space for a brand new idea, and that's how really creative people are able to create things that nobody's ever seen before. They create space for possibility. And so then brand new ideas can come in. Our thoughts and our subconscious can assimilate things that are always going on underneath the surface, right? And then we have these so-called like epiphanies or downloads or insights, right? Where do those things come from? They can only get there if you create space for them. If I'm constantly thinking about what I need to do, where I need to be, what I have done, what I haven't done, whether I'm successful enough, whether I'm attractive enough, whether I'm, if I'm always evaluating, always judging, always filling my headspace with just stuff that doesn't matter, then there's no space for things that do. And so that's the other piece of the puzzle of what's possible is creativity. And so we can create things that are brand new. We can create things based on full possibility rather than what's been in the past. So we can take these ideas and we can begin to practice. And this is where the work comes into play. We've talked a lot about how thinking gets in the way of living a more fully expressed life, and how it can create inaction. And so how do we actually begin the practice of not thinking? And it's no coincidence that this is actually a practice in all parts of the world, in a lot of philosophical thinking, religions, sacred ways of being. Meditation is typically the first step. And awareness is always like before meditation comes awareness, right? Like this conversation is what piques awareness. This conversation is what allows you to expand your thinking and realize that you are thinking, because you are not your thoughts. If you think about your thoughts, then you know that you're not your thoughts, because you can actually observe your thinking. So it all starts with awareness. And I know it could sound a little jumbly or whatever, but the very fact that you know that you're overthinking something lets you know that you are not that entity that is overthinking. So we let go of our thoughts by practicing. We notice, that's the awareness, and this conversation allows for that. Oh, that's right, I am not my thoughts. So now we have to watch our thoughts. And in order to watch our thoughts, we have to actually create space and time. Now, with a lot of my clients who are brand new to meditation, we start with 3 minutes, or we build it into the day. So if you are driving, maybe you take a couple minutes just to watch your thinking, not to stop thinking, but just to watch it so that you learn more about yourself. You just notice, what are my thoughts? And you might notice that you're ruminating on, or, obsessing about something that's about to happen, or you're thinking about something that happened last weekend or something like that. And then you can redirect your thoughts towards something constructive if you choose to, or maybe you can just kind of let go of what is and practice letting go. And so a controlled environment is really, really productive for learning how to do this. If you think about anything in life, you have to practice it to get good at it. This proves true for meditation as well. So even if you practice for 3 minutes in the morning, then you're going to be better at it throughout the day. If you practice, for 3 minutes, you might decide that you want to go on for a few more minutes, and then you start to just expand that time, and that literally builds the muscle of being able to let go of the need to constantly think. And so just like in sports, right? Like it's a pregame for Seahawks right now, right? And it's not like they've just been sitting around doing nothing, in between time, right? They've been practicing and practicing and practicing behind the scenes to be able to show up in the game and be able to perform. So that's why we have meditation, so that you can actually, that's your practice. That's your controlled space. They run drills, and they do these little mini drills. That's what it is, right? Over and over and over again, so that when they're in the game, they don't have to think. That's the trick. They get it ingrained in their body. They get it ingrained in their brain just as a pattern, like rote memorization of this thing, so that when they're in the game, they're not thinking, right? The best athletes in the world are not thinking, okay, now I'm going to catch the ball. Like, that's not the way it works. And so by practicing in a controlled environment, so that just means, you know, in a quiet space, intentionally, get the dogs out, get the kids out, you know, create that space for yourself, set a timer so you're not worried about how long you're there for, and then sit and just watch your thoughts. That's the place to start. You can try to let go, and that's how you'll get to a space of non-thinking. You can focus on your breath. If you just watch your breath going in and out for 3 minutes, that will allow for your thinking to fall away because you're laser focused on one thing. And so meditation and this, what I'm talking about, is not an intellectual process. I studied with a Qigong master in China. I wasn't in China. He was from China. But we were in Hawaii, and I studied with him every day for a month. And the biggest thing that I took away from him in learning Qigong, which is a form of meditation, is that you can't learn it intellectually. You just have to do it. And I just became aware that I'm over time. I want to be mindful of that. So to conclude, right, overthinking gets in the way of living a fully expressed life. Ways that we can let go of that is by diminishing the time between thinking and action, or an idea and action. Being mindful of the fact that we are thinking, so building the awareness around that so that we can actually practice letting go of it. And by doing so, we can create space. And I can sit here and tell you this all day long. I'm certainly not going to. I'll spare you that. But I hate the expression, but the proof is in the pudding. Just try it. Try a little bit of meditation every morning, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Look for an opportunity to build that into your lifestyle, and you will see the evidence in the doing. If you don't believe me, then just try it. And that's okay. If you do believe me, great, then try it. Either way, I promise you, it will add to your life. And if you have any questions on any of this, please go ahead and reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions on the phone, via Facebook, via email, whatever. I'm here. I just want to share. I really appreciate you guys being here with me today. And I hope to see some of you next Tuesday. All right. Have a great week, you guys.